Hey there, human pixie or whatever you are. I'm happy you're here, and welcome to this little podcast that I'm thinking about doing. It's called Modern Myths. It's where I tell myths and fables from now that I or other people have written, because I think it's an art that has been lost for a little bit. So today's fable is going to be about carnivorous plants, a world where carnivorous plants have really taken over. In this world, it's ruled by dryads, or the spirits of these plants, you could say. And humans are their favorite snack. So today's fable is called Candy for Dryads. There are two ways for a fly to escape a Venus flytrap. The first is to escape before the trap is closed all the way, or to do absolutely nothing. Any movement or struggle inside of the plant's mouth will alert the plant's trigger hairs that it has caught something, and it will begin digesting the unfortunate insect. This is just one type of carnivorous plant, but by far the most well-known. Now suppose you took the place of the insect, and it was instead you who were walking around a forest trail on a warm spring day. All of a sudden, the leafy ground erupts around you, lime green walls with jagged spines that clasp together above you, blotting out the remaining sunlight and leaving you in the stomach of a carnivorous plant, silently waiting for confirmation that it has captured some sort of living prey. Allow me to tell you the story of a man who found himself in this situation. The claustrophobia had begun to set in, and even though he knew what to do, the wait was still agonizing. Did the plant know he was in its mouth? Would he begin to feel his body melt away, or would the trap release him back into the world again, unknowing that it had ever caught a delectable meal? He laid still, fearing he had already moved too much, every beat of his heart feeling like a traitorous motion, signaling to his captor to begin devouring him. He was breathing as little as possible, but it already felt like too much. One of the plant's large trigger hairs was pressed up against his cheek. It twitched ever so slightly. He recoiled from it. Dread filled him. The hair pressed on his face. Had he moved? Only in his head? Or was the hungry plant preparing to drench him in acid? Maybe he would stop breathing just to be sure he didn't move. No, that wouldn't work. If he passed out, then there was a higher chance of moving in his sleep. He realized that the claustrophobia and paranoia had finally gotten to him. Maybe he would try to break out of the plant by force. Yes, that's it. He wasn't a weak person. He could do it. Then he remembered how many others had tried that and continued to lay still. Then he saw something. It was a speck of light, perhaps a ray of moonlight or a star visible through the leafy canopy. The trap must have begun to move. Its mouth had begun to open. He had to crawl out while it was still opening. No! It was in his head. There was no light. The trap was still closed, and he laid there, unmoving. Then there was the light again. It was real this time. Or was it? He could make out the leaves of the trees above him in between the spindly jaws of the opening trap. This was it. He had to move. He had had enough, and he wasn't waiting anymore. The trap's maw had opened, and he wriggled through the spines of the trap and sprinted back the way he came. It seemed as though, for that day at least, he would not become candy for the dryads. So that was kind of like a little teaser thing. If you want to hear more, let me know. You can send me an email at sicosiber@gmail.com. And honestly, that would mean a lot to me, because this was honestly kind of hard to do, because it's easy to do something that you want to do and kind of play it off as a joke and kind of half do it, so that way you can just kind of pretend you didn't really want to do it anyway, and if you tried, you could have done it. But this is something that I do want to do, and I'm trying to do for real, and so it's just a lot scarier to do something like for real. So thank you for listening. You're here at the end. That really means a lot to me, and I hope you have an absolutely magical day.